Good afternoon. You're watching Businessworld Live. I'm Jes Delos Santos. Let's take a look at how the local bourse closed today, Wednesday. All right, positive sentiment extending to today in the local bourse after March inflation eased slightly in March, its first drop in 5 months. Shares from the get-go already on a tear today. Try to take a look at this chart, but it was a last-minute rally which pushed shares even higher today. The main index caps of the day higher by 0.9% to 6,651.71. The local bourse has been on a 3-day rally. It's been up as close to 3.25% over that period, as you can see right here. This despite, of course, economic managers already seeing slower economic growth for the full year of 2021. Dominguez on Bloomberg TV said they are expecting growth to come in lower than what is expected. In fact, you also have Budget Secretary Wendell Abisado saying that the economic cluster will be reviewing their targets for the year on April 19. Recall, of course, that the DBCC is targeting a 6.5 to 7.5% growth for the full year of 2020. But it's not only our economic managers. Fitch, likewise, is slashing its growth forecast for the Philippines. This as infections continue to rise. The Philippines, of course, now accounts for the highest cases and deaths in the Western Pacific. That's according to the latest data from the World Health Organization. Fitch Solution has downgraded its 2021 forecast to 5.8% from 7.6% previously. Now, in our broadcast this morning, Michael Langham of Fitch Solutions said that the imposition of lockdowns weighs heavily on the country's growth, given that the Philippines is highly dependent on domestic activity. He said that they do not see these lockdowns being eased significantly to start economic rebound in the near term. Now, despite the bleaker outlooks, majority of the 30-member index ended the day in the positive territory. Metro Pacific still on top of the leaderboard here, extending its run to a 4-day rally. The stock is up close to 5.6%. That is its biggest single day gain yet in over 3 months, with volume also quadrupling. The stock now at 4 pesos and 15 centavos a share. Now, its co-owner in Maynila, DMCI, also making gains today. As you can see here, DMCI is in the green, up close to 2.7%. Now at 5 pesos and 75 centavos a share. This after Maynila, you have also, of course, Maynila. Its concession deal is now up for review after Manila Water agreement was signed in last week. Now, of course, we tried to take a look at other performers here. A number of consumer stocks making gains here. San Miguel Corporation, as you can see, also inching higher, 1.3%. That's after they earmarked 4.6 billion pesos for the expansion of the South Luzon Expressway. On the other hand, Ayala Corporation, the conglomerate, is a day's worst performer, down by 1.9%. Jollibee also in the red here. This despite the stock targeting 50 outlets in Europe in the next 5 years. Jollibee now at 184 pesos and 80 centavos a share. Now, one regional property player has also eked out gains today. I'm talking about Cebu Landmasters. That's despite a weaker performance for 2020. You have revenue coming in lower by 2% to 8.3 billion pesos from 8.5 billion pesos previously. Decline in revenues really due to slowdown in construction, affected, of course, by the imposition of enhanced community quarantine. Quarter and quarter, though, that grew by 18% in the fourth quarter to 2.59 billion pesos. Net income also dropping by 8% to 1.8 billion pesos from 2 billion pesos previously. Its chairman and CEO, Jose Soberano, said they are looking forward to offering safe and healthy homes in the Visayas and Mindanao. And they are, in fact, seeing a 15 to 20% upside in 2021 as they, of course, hope for a rebound. The revert to ECQ has put in limbo the employment of thousands of NCR plus bubble residents. How is the Labor Department planning to address this? Let's find out from Labor Assistant Secretary Dominique Tutay. Good afternoon, ASEC Tutay.
Hi, good afternoon, and to all the televiewers.
All right, ma'am. So 8,000 workers displaced in just a matter of 3 days. From what sectors mostly are these workers?
Okay, most of those affected are from the sectors of accommodation and food service, transport and logistics, manufacturing, other service activities, and that would include the spa, the salons, the computer shops, and then also surprisingly, construction. There's a big, huge displacement from the construction sector.
Just to clarify and to qualify it better, of course, by displaced we mean employees who actually permanently lost their jobs, correct?
Yeah, this is based on the reports of the companies who have resorted to retrench their workers permanently and those who have really lost their jobs permanently because of the closure of the companies themselves.
Is it
And
possible that the actual number is bigger as a Tutay,
well,
given
it
that
could
this is
be.
based primarily on establishments reporting to you?
Yeah, that's correct. The figures could be higher because the 8,334 that in our record is just based on the 424 companies who have submitted their reports on retrenchment and permanent closure.
But also what's staggering here is how big of a gap these figures are. 8,000. Compare that to the 1.5 million that was presented by the DTI based, I think, on the labor force survey. So can you explain to us really why is there a huge difference?
Well, ours is administrative data and based just on the submission of the companies and those in the formal sector. If you look at the DTI pronouncement about the 1.5 million, they base that on the total number of employed persons in NCR Plus bubble in January 2021 labor force survey. So they sum up the total number of workers and then they multiply that with the percentage of operations depending on each sector. If they are allowed 100% operation, 50% operation based on the IATF guidelines. So these are the assumptions made by the DTI in tandem with the PSA.
Okay, so at least that part is clear. What the DTI presented are merely projections here. But given that, what are your assumptions for the whole 2 weeks of ECQ? How many workers do you expect to actually lose their jobs?
We're looking at the 2 weeks where the first week, 22nd of March to 28th of March, where there is already a curfew, and then followed by an ECQ and now another ECQ. Looking at the 2 weeks data that we have, the average displacement, permanent displacement is around 8,000 to 10,000. So maybe additional 8 to 10,000 in the weeks of April 5 to April 11
So you mean an average of 8,000 displaced workers per week. So we're
per week.
expecting an additional 8,000 at least to come this extension of ECQ.
That's correct.
Okay, but all in all, you have 118,000 workers displaced since the start of the pandemic. Do we have data on how many of those have already been reintegrated into the workforce?
It's not actually reintegrated into the workforce, but because we're seeing that there are some companies who are, for instance, doing some flexible work arrangements, but they will graduate to temporary closure, and then companies under temporary closure will finally fold up to permanent closure. That's what we're seeing in the data that we are monitoring.
Now, question is, should these lockdowns extend? Should ECQ extend in the NCR plus bubble? How much of an increase are we expecting in the number of displaced workers, at least by the end of the year? Do you have your projections at least?
We don't want to project, but I think it's much lower than what we have experienced in 2020. Last year, we have recorded around 420,000 displaced workers. On top of that, are about 4.5 million workers under flexible work arrangements and temporary closure. But you have to take note that companies who are in temporary closure for 1 year might really graduate to permanent closure by this time if they will not reopen safely.
Okay, what is being done now to support these displaced workers? I believe you have a one-time assistance of 5,000 pesos, but is that even enough?
that's really not enough because what is just 5,000? What we are pushing for is a 3-month wage subsidy program that will go into the payroll system of the establishments that are affected by flexible work arrangements, temporary closures, and even retrenchment. And it's going to run for about 3 months, and hopefully the proposal will be approved. We're just waiting for the final approval of the proposal, and then we are ready to roll this program once approved.
Wait, what's the proposed budget here for the three-wage subsidy program, and how does it work exactly? Is it a flat rate across the board in every establishment, regardless of the nature of a operation?
We're looking at an 8,000 per worker per month, and that will run for 3 months. And the target beneficiary is about 1 million. So that would be around 24 billion pesos.
What do you think is the likelihood that that is going to be approved?
Hopefully, it will be approved soonest.
Okay. Now, of course, looking at some of the figures here, according to the National Employment Recovery Strategy, the goal this year is to add 2.4 to 2.8 million jobs. Do you think this is still achievable?
We have adopted the 2.4 to 2.8 million target employment to be created by the economy under the updated Philippine Development Plan. But as I always say, in looking at the trends in the past years, the economy, the highest number of employment that the economy generates is just about 2.2 million. And that was like pre-COVID years. But since we are still grappling with the pandemic, I just don't know if we will be able to achieve that target of 2.4 million. But suffice it to say that between January and February rounds of the labor force survey, we're seeing a big leap in terms of the net employment generation. We have about 1.9 million between January and the February rounds of the labor force survey this year. So that's a good start. That's a good start.
But if not 2.4 at least, then what do you think would be more achievable at this stage?
Maybe, well, this is just a guess. It's about 1.5 to 2 million. That's already the highest.
1.5 to 2 million, at least for the full year, 2021.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much for being candid about that. And thank you very much for your insights, ASEC Dominique Tutay of the Labor Department.
Thank you.
Here are other headlines we're keeping our eyes on. Over a dozen Filipino billionaires got even richer this year, despite the pandemic pummeling the global economy. For the third straight year, former senator and real estate mogul Manny Villar topped Forbes' list of richest Filipinos after his net worth grew to $7.2 billion or over 350 billion pesos. Villar ranked 352nd globally out of 2,755 billionaires. The list exploded by around 30% compared to last year, with a record high of over 490 new billionaires. Sports and casino tycoon Enrique Razon Jr. was the second wealthiest person in the country with a net worth of $5 billion or 243 billion pesos. Taking the third spot was Lucio Tan, whose fortunes ballooned to $3.3 billion or 160 billion pesos despite the collapse of his loss-making Philippine Airlines. Two heirs of the SM Group's C-Clan tied with Alliance Global's Andrew Tan at the fourth place. Forbes said the growing number of billionaires comes on the back of rapid-fire public offerings, surging cryptocurrencies, and skyrocketing stock prices. Despite the global health crisis, Forbes said it's been a year like no other for the world's richest. Now, the indemnification payout for hog farmers affected by the African swine fever has been doubled to 10,000 pesos per pig. The Agriculture Department explains this move encourages the early reporting of infected hogs to better control the spread of ASF. Aside from this, Agriculture Secretary William Dar said increased payouts by the Philippine Crop Insurance Corporation will also help in repopulating herds and stabilizing pork prices. PCIC said premium-free coverage will also be offered to backyard hog raisers, while discounts on premiums will be extended to commercial hog raisers. The insurance policy will now pay out 10,000 pesos per head for fatteners, 14,500 pesos per head for breeders, and 34,000 pesos per head for parent stock. And those are the biggest news of this trading day, April 7, 2021. Catch Business World live again tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. for the market open and 3:15 p.m. for the market close. I'm Jes Delos Santos. We are One News. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines.